Well, good morning, everyone. There is a wonderful light drizzle this morning. It's cloudy, it's drizzling, and it's just delightful. Let me put it that way. Just wanted to hop on here to give you an intro to what you're going to be seeing as we do some rewind of our previous videos while I'm on sabbatical. So many of you have been interested in how the steps came together, how the back patio, the brick rug came together, and we're going to be showing you that today. It will be long, so you might want to break it up or just watch the parts that are interesting to you. But we did want to be kind of comprehensive about how it all came together. You can see that it's cool because Hubs even has the windows open. So that's just a little intro to this. Enjoy. Watch as much or as little as you like. It might be a little bit disjointed because of the way it's been put together, but we hope you like it.
So here's what I want to address today in the backyard and thinking about my design. What I've been doing is not only referencing my inspiration pictures from others' gardens, from Pinterest, from Instagram, let's just say other individuals' gardens that I could steal from. I'm also going to steal from my own, because even though I've created a garden in the past, I sometimes forget some of the features that I liked the best. And one of the features I loved was when you entered the gate of my backyard and you could look over to about right here. And there was just this beautiful presentation of a large boxwood ball and a beautiful vignette right here. So I want to do something that will accentuate and maybe somewhat replicate what I had there. It may be with different types of plant material, but so that I can almost elicit that gasp as you come in from the back and the light will fall a certain way. Now, a couple of things you may notice. So right here is where we took it down, and I got a video of the guys taking it down.
So they are going to dig this out. You can see how massive that root ball is. It would have gotten humongous. So they're digging it out, and to protect the dirt, but also to contain the dirt, they've put down a blue tarp.
This was where there was kind of a, well, it turned out to be just too massive and shrubby of a crepe myrtle right here. And I decided that I just wanted to remove it because I didn't like its location. I just didn't like a lot about it. So I thought, okay, I am just going to conduct an experiment, a temporary experiment, to see how I feel about having anything here of that mass. And I can do that by addressing both a practical and an aesthetic concern. These are Annabelle hydrangeas that were gifted to me by my friend Linda Kavanaugh from Channel 4 years and years ago. And you can see that it's grown. I have rooted some of it, it's spread, and I had it in a massive, I don't know where it is now. Oh, can you see it in the distance? A massive black pot like that one. So I had them tucked away. I wasn't sure where I wanted to put them, and I don't want to commit because there's so much other work that needs to be done back here, and my design isn't finalized. So what I did was we just dug a huge hole, and I just plopped that pot into the hole so it will be easier to keep it watered. I can see what it would look like if I planted it there permanently, and it will just be happier right here. And then it will also help me envision what this will look like a little bit more later, because pretty soon I'm going to be blasting out this concrete walk and these concrete steps to replicate another design feature that I just loved at my old house, and that was my really broad stepping stone, step away that went up into the back door where I could then put topiaries. It was much easier to navigate. The rise was much shallower than it is here, and it will just be more practical. But that has to wait just a little bit. So this is a mess over here, it is still being worked on. That pipe will need to be buried. I'm still having a surround built for the air conditioner. All of those plants just stuck out there in the middle will be removed, but I think I may have found, at least temporarily, a home for the topiaried Encore azaleas, and I really like the way that they are flanking this door that goes into the garage, where I plan to have a little awning, maybe a little gray and white stripe or something, and I will have an awning there, and I think these could be really beautiful in this location. And then this guttering here, which by the way is not serving any kind of water control purpose, even if it is, we will come up with another solution. This curb, this concrete curb here, this will also be removed. So there'll be this kind of really open area that now looks, it's very cluttered, but it also looks much more confined than it actually will be. So here is another question of the day, and that is, I'm thinking about this. So I know garden roses are just a huge thing, and I love them, but let's face it, especially climbers, they're a lot of work. And in Oklahoma, they don't look good for as long. In other words, they don't give me good 4-season interest. And in a small garden, I demand good 4-season interest. So a number of you recommended, and I think it would be lovely. So here's some options I have for this corner. I have yet to make a decision on whether or not I want a small greenhouse right here. I go back and forth on it, thinking maybe this backyard is just too small and I will regret it. So here are some alternatives to any kind of structure that I would have here and what I would plant on this very important corner, which is what you see when you come in the back gate. So tell me what you think. Option 1 is, should I not be so lazy and plant a climbing rose here? Option 2, and another one that I just love, is should I plant, and this would be a perfect spot for it, a Japanese maple right here and train it so that it comes up as beautifully contoured and kind of really frames both sides of this corner? Or should I do something a little bit maybe more interesting, but along the lines of a recommendation you made? And that is some kind of espalier. Now, a fruit espalier would be really cool, but again, may not have the good 4-season interest that I want. So I'm thinking about using what I already have by relocating this huge oak leaf hydrangea that I brought from the other house. And by the way, I brought it not only because I loved it, but because this has lived at 2 other houses that I lived in before the fairy tale house. So I'm thinking, since it's so tall and is already kind of sculptural, I'm thinking about planting it over here on this facade, really giving it some TLC. It will get large and put out some really beautiful branches that I might, in a way, then espalier on this wall. And that way I'm not spending any more money, and I'm using something I already have, and it will give me 4-season interest. Why? Because I love the flaky branching and the architecture of the branching structure, the trunk of it in the wintertime. I love the way it looks in the spring when it starts budding out. Obviously, I love it when it flowers in the summer, and then I also really, really love it in the fall when all of that foliage turns that gorgeous crimson, purple, pink color. Well, if you could see right now what I'm seeing, and you're going to shortly, you will realize that the chaos continues, but nevertheless, we are making lots of progress. It's been a busy week here, not necessarily for me, but for Javier and Sergio and Fernando, who are here helping me get an irrigation system in the back, which will be predominantly a drip system. Now, all you sweet mothers out there that always want to mother me, I will be very careful not to trip. I'll be careful to get my hair out of my eyes. So please don't worry about that. I will be careful. Pretty soon we'll be able to navigate all of this treachery out here without a problem. So without further ado, I'm going to come down off of these steps, which by the way have not been sealed yet or faced in brick. They will be spectacular once they are finished, as will the entire back living room, as I'm calling it. I can already see it in my head. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I can see it in my head. We did, and I should have taken some photos of this, Stuart, before it started to be dug up. But this gives you an idea of where the irrigation lines will go and the different kind of zones I will have. But over here, you can see kind of, I think, where the edge of the brickwork is going to be. It was going to be a little bit larger than this, and then because of the irrigation lines, practicalities dictated that we had to compress it a little bit. So this will be the outer edge of what I'm thinking of as the brick rug right here. And that will give me more than enough room around the perimeter here. I've got maybe 5 feet here around the perimeter, so I can have my raised beds here with my peppers. Oh, look, Stuart, it's still here. That spider web that we observed the other day, has it changed?
Something on it.
It's still there. But I will have more than enough room around the perimeter for my raised beds, for I'm not sure what here in the corner, which will be some kind of, I'm thinking, gray-leaved plant. I might even try to keep my olive trees growing and plop them in like I did with the topiaries in the front. I'm still not sure. But I'm not going to be doing any planting right now anyway. I will reserve that until fall. The only staging I'll be doing with plants, I'm sorry, Stuart, you
Mosquito
just...
bite. It's
Mosquito.
no problem.
Though I have to say the mosquitoes, okay, I'm going to digress for a minute because the mosquitoes have really not been bad here. I'm very happy to report, maybe because I don't have so much shady canopy, but this may be a problem I have not had historically. It remains to be seen, but yesterday I was scared to death when I was deadheading the candy butterfly, the butterfly candy, in the front beds, and a little rabbit ran out, and it about gave me a stroke. So it may be that I have rabbit issues in the future. I'm not really sure. And then yesterday evening, probably because it was so cool underneath all of that cottage garden foliage, on the other side, I was also deadheading and almost had a stroke because the neighbor's cat across the street, Severin, was lying down there in the shade and jumped out at me. So yeah, the garden can be a dangerous place for many, many reasons. But again, I'm digressing. So back in here, there will be a tree. I did want to tell those of you that live in the Oklahoma City area and those that probably in Texas, now is a great time to find this Silverado sage, or this Silverado sage rather, the Texas sage. I noticed at TLC, which is a local independently owned nursery here in the Oklahoma City area, they were advertising them, that they've got some of them for sale, maybe not this large, maybe just in shrub form, but nevertheless they have them because they are so heat and drought tolerant that it's this time of year you will find them. You will find crepe myrtle, you will find, what else will you find? You'll find those kind of plants this time of year in the nursery. And I think it looks great like this, but it would look great as a topiary, and it also would look great just as a hedge. So one of my favorite gray foliage plants that sometimes I use because I don't know, it gives me kind of a lavender look without being lavender, which I find difficult to grow here. I cannot wait to be able to plant my beds with vegetables, which I will try to do in a very elegant and edible way in the raised beds over here. And Stuart, look, even in this chaos, I've got, let me show you right here, I'll hold on. But look here, I've got some tomatoes back here. So I think that's just very, very fun. And it looks like I'm starting to get maybe a sign of mealybug. I'm not sure. I need to check that out more closely. But I have some tomatoes back here. I think it might be fun to get them growing up on the wall. I just can't wait to start playing. But I can't play until the chaos is done. I do want to show you, okay, my little sweet topiaries for Christmas. They're not so little. And get ready for, in August, I have declared it topiary month. So get ready with your ideas. Make sure to share on what things you're going to try to topiary that you found when you were shopping from your own garden in the garden center. I'm going to be playing with some topiary ideas I have myself. Hopefully, maybe, possibly, by then I'll have an irrigation system. I'll have a brick patio, and it won't be quite such a mess back here. One can dream. Okay, so lots of stuff has been going on back here. In fact, it was like magic. I was working at the computer the other day. I didn't realize the guys were back here. And when I pulled my head out and came up for lunch to get something to eat, all of the irrigation ditches were already filled in. It was like magic. I couldn't believe how quickly they had worked. So all the trenches have been filled in. The template, the profile for the great big patio is pretty clear to you now. You can see where we have excavated out some dirt to a depth of about 4 to 5 inches. And the profile and the outline that you see here is where this great big brick rug is going to be. So the guys are on a lunch break right now. They will be coming back. Fortunately, this isn't, it's supposed to get up to 104 degrees today, but fortunately, this area is typically shady. When it starts getting a little bit too hot on that side, they put up the patio umbrella, because obviously as the sun moves from the east to the west, this whole area gets in a little bit more sun. So we will make sure that they stay safe and that they stay hydrated. So it should go fairly quickly once they start the work. So what is the work? Well, interestingly, there's always little bits of gardening archaeology and anthropology whenever you are putting in a new garden. And Stuart, if you would come over here, there was some kind of concrete border, not unlike the one that was on the west side that we broke up and tore out. Why this is running down the middle of the yard, I have no idea.
Great.
But it looks like it had been some kind of border.
How far does it go? Just right there?
I really don't know. But what we'll do is just tear out whatever area is above the surface where the brick will be. The remainder can stay in place. Then we'll go with a layer of this crushed gravel.
Linda, what if it's a pool?
Well, I don't think that would be a logical. Oh, Stuart said, Linda, maybe it was a pool. Well, if it was a pool, it was a very tiny one and in a very strange location. Whatever this was, it was in a very strange location, whatever it was bordering. So now the next step, after we pulverize that and get that out of the way so that it's on grade, then we're going to come back in with some of this crushed gravel. And the crushed gravel will then be the base for the brick and the pavers. I have decided to do a combo of the two. Let's show this one over here. The brick and the pavers that we're going to use. And these are in that brown tone.
This guy too?
Yeah, just the brick and the pavers. And these are in the brown tone rather than that stark gray tone. So I think it will harmonize and coordinate a lot better. We're going to do this first before we put any kind of brick facing on the steps. There will be, I believe I told you in our last riveting episode, that over here in this corner right here, that I am a Japanese maple. And then because I want to reuse some of what I have, this area may be softened and rounded out with some of the Nandina that I have that's parked over there on the west side. And then there's going to just be a long table here. Now, this is a little bit more of Christmas in July. So I think I told you that I'm going to be on the Christmas tour this year. And I was thinking about, oh, where would we have our big Christmas tree without it taking up too much space, without it being in the way. Small petite ones maybe in the parlor. The great room would be the obvious place for a large tree. But then I didn't want to do the kind of large tree that I did when my kids were younger. So I told Hubs, I said, I've got a brilliant idea. So what I think I'm going to do is have an inside-outside live Christmas tree. Because I've always wanted to have a Christmas tree I could plant later. So I think what we're going to do is on whatever table I have here, I will, right in the middle of this window, have a big Christmas tree. And it will be all lit and it will be decorated, and you'll be able to see it like as if it's behind the couch. See it from inside the room. It will be lit up, but it'll be outside, and then I can plant the tree later, so it'll be kind of an indoor-outdoor Christmas tree. And I think that's really fun. Don't you think that's fun, Stuart? I can hang things on it for the birds. Let me know your thoughts on that. There's another question for you. Do you think that's a good idea? Because I just thought, oh, that would be so much fun, and that window would showcase it just beautifully. That way I also wouldn't have to disrupt or move around, relocate any of the furniture in there. And there would be that much more space and that much more room to navigate for when people come through for the tour. And I know you'll ask, I'm not sure exactly when it is yet, but it's in Mesta Park, and it will be at the first part of December, I feel certain. So that's what's kind of going on here. I am hoping this week that also we'll get the rain barrel in place, and I'll have a better idea of the perimeter and how many and what size of the raised vegetable beds I want. I mentioned it before, but most of the edibles are going to be around here on the periphery of the patio in raised beds, and I think that'll be fun. And I have pretty much depth through here. What would you say?
I'm trying to show them what you just talked about.
Okay, yeah, the raised beds.
Sorry, here I come.
And they may or may not, all of them may or may not be that style. That's something I'm still cogitating on. But from this point, the edge of the patio to the corner, I've got pretty much depth. What would you say that was, 10 feet?
Maybe a tiny bit longer, but yeah.
Maybe 10 to 12 feet in here. So I'll be able to have a small tree, maybe a small Yopon holly or something. Maybe, oh, here comes the guys, they're pulling up. Maybe one of my olive trees, I'm not really sure. But I came up as I was walking around and thinking about different things, planning my spring show for the front. And by the way, stay tuned for the next couple of weeks, because I'm going to be sharing all of the tulips, the alliums, the amaryllis that I ordered from Color Blends. If you haven't gotten your catalog, I got mine yesterday. If you haven't gotten your catalog yet, go to colorblends.com and they will mail you one. But I think what I'm going to do, because I thought, okay, this might be a good solution. So Stuart, if you will very carefully come over here. A number of you have asked about the encore topiaries, and I haven't showed them recently. So I've got two of them, one there and one right there. Now, typically they bloom heavily in the spring and in the fall because encore azaleas are our favorite reblooming azaleas. I knew these were pink, but I wasn't exactly sure what color of pink. Happily, it has rewarded me with a very, very sweet bloom. I want to say this is encore chiffon. I'm not really sure, but I will find out and let you know. But I was thinking in the front, and Stuart right here, we might want to put in the area around the social patio where I've got those two really large, hi guys,
You go ahead.
Eugenia topiaries. Hi, Javier. Javier's back.
Let him know to
Here,
go ahead,
go on ahead, Javier.
Sorry.
I told him you guys were taking a lunch break.
Yeah, I've been on here before.
He knows the drill. Can I just say that I really missed them when they haven't been here, so it's fun to have them back again. This is where we might show in the front, Stuart, where the large Eugenia topiaries in pots that are just recessed into the ground, those are not frost hardy, so they're going to have to go to the greenhouse. These azaleas are frost hardy, so probably what I'll do is just leave these in their pots and pluck them down into those holes. They'll be ready to bloom in spring, and then when it's past our last frost date, I can bring back the Eugenias and move these back here again. Now, if it looks like temperatures are really going to fall off a cliff and it's going to get extremely cold, then even though by recessing these into the ground itself will help insulate them in their pots, and I will of course mulch them. Nevertheless, come on in, Sergio, say hello to everyone.
Hi.
I'll put them in the ground and I'll make sure to mulch them. But these will be beautiful blooming in the spring. They will fill the void left by the Eugenias, and I think it will be a brilliant solution. But I started to say is if it gets really, really cold, then since they're still in pots, I can just excavate them out of their captivity in the holes up front, and I can put them in the garage or even in a greenhouse depending on how cold it gets. So I think that'll be fun, and I think since they match my color palette in these pinks and whites, I think it'll just be more than fun to have these blooming around the social patio in the spring. So I'm excited about that, and excited for that as kind of a solution. So these heavenly bamboo nandinas that were already here, those I will probably put kind of around the Japanese maple. The Japanese maple, again, I will not plant until fall. It's just too hot. I may be doing a little bit of in-ground planting on the margins where it's a little bit shadier, but I'm definitely not going to do any kind of real aggressive planting now. So let's come over and check out the guys. So in case you're going to try to do this yourself, Sergio is just using a hard rake, and he's putting, Sergio, this will be maybe 2 to 3 inches of gravel by the time you get finished, 2 to 3 inches of crushed gravel. And then the brick and the stone will just lay on top of that, and then we'll come back with a mixture of infill with gravel and maybe a little bit of that pot or that soil conditioner that we used up front. So Javier is clearing out whatever the rest of that is. And how about we just take a break here and leave them to it. Okay. So at this point, they have all of the under layer, the sublayer of crushed gravel in place. And then they have drawn a line, a string line across the expanse to make sure that it's all level once it's in place. So they've done one stretch of it there. You can see it in place, and they already have a brick and a paver underneath it. And now they're getting ready to do another one, and I imagine they'll do several of those in kind of a grid pattern to make sure that all of them are foot sure and even when they place them.
Let me get off here, okay?
No, come on. Sorry, I was on.
No, we were gonna shoot you.
We're doing, what's it called? Stop motion. What's it called? Time lapse.
Time lapse.
We're doing time lapse. Here, get this.
Get this.
So, Kayla, tell me about what they're installing now.
So they're installing a hard flexible edging. Purpose of using this one is to make the curve with. It's easier to work with. It has plastic connectors that you can clip them to curve it where you want it to bend. Unlike metal edging, sometimes you bend it and it gives it kind of a little corner or a straight edge.
Right.
And another good thing about this one is when we're finished, you're not going to see it.
And
It'll be covered up with your organic matter.
Yeah, and that was really important to me. I would guess, is it also less expensive?
Yeah, less expensive. It comes in 6-foot sticks. Those little plastic spikes that they're using has to be bought separate.
Okay.
But price-wise, it'll go down just about as fast as the metal edging does. But the expense on this is not maybe a third of the metal edging.
Okay, Stuart, did you show them putting the spikes in? Now, if Hubs looked out here, he'd probably get kind of excited and think, oh, this could have been a swimming pool. This could have been a swimming pool. Instead, it's just going to be a patio with a bunch of pots around it. But fortunately, our neighbors across the street just finished their swimming pool, so we'll just use theirs. So Sergio and Javier are here this morning. Say hello, gentlemen. Hi. And we're continuing to lay the brick patio, and you can see the edging that they have put in place, and that will all have infill in it later on. And they will finish the bricklaying of the perimeter first with the pavers and the bricks, continuing this pattern all the way around. Oh, I love the way the shadows are created from the lattice work. And then what we were doing was just kind of playing to see what it will look like as we begin to establish a pattern for the interior. Now, I always like it when there's a little bit of space in between the bricks rather than one right up against each other. That also makes the brick go farther. And they'll just continue to proceed on that. But they do have to get the perimeter done first. So let's just watch the genius of Javier for a moment. Demonstrating how he puts it in place. And I can't believe, gentlemen, that you do this without gloves. I bet your hands are pretty dry by the end of the day. But they're exacting, and he pounds them into place to make sure that they're level. And you can see the grid of string that they have run across the entire area, making sure that it will all be level.
And you'll notice that periodically we're using imperfect brick because I want it to look imperfect, perfectly imperfect. What we're trying to decide on now, I know that I want a herringbone pattern in the interior. And what I'm deciding on now is between two different patterns. This one on an angle and this one, which is pretty much straight. This is also a 1x1 herringbone and this is a 2x2. So here's a question for you. Which would you execute? I just had Hubs come out and give me his opinion. What we will do, or what they will do, is actually, after the entire surround is in place, which he doesn't have that much more to go, maybe a third to go, then they'll start laying the herringbone pattern of brick in the interior. There will be some space in between the brick because I like that look better. And the other thing that might be a consideration is I've been told that when you put things on an angle, whether it's tile or brick, that it does make the surface look larger. So, the other reason this might be easier is what we're going to do is lay the entire brick pattern first and then go back in and remove some brick to drop in the pavers. So this would be choice A, this would be choice B, and stay tuned and you'll see which one we decided on. Well, the work is very exacting to make sure that each brick and paver is level. And it is very labor intensive. But I think it will be beautiful when it's finished and worth it. You'll notice that I'm even incorporating some bricks that have the holes in them because it's old brick and it's the color of my house. Some of it actually came off of my house and was rescued from the garage. So the work continues. Well, Javier, it is looking spectacular. It really is. So he is such a craftsman, and look at the artistry with which he has intermingled the bricks with the holes, with the solid bricks and the pavers in a really nice rhythm. And don't forget Sergio. Sergio too is taking a little break because it is about 100 degrees out, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. And fortunately, they have mobile shade. So they just keep moving the umbrella around. But it is really looking spectacular. I love the texture of it and the color. And boy, when the infill is in and it's hosed down, it should be really, really spectacular. Now on the opposite side, on the west side of the patio, let's do kind of just a little broad view so people can see what I'm talking about. Wave, Leah. Wave, she's trying to hide.
Haven't got there yet. There she is.
There she is, wave. So on this side of the patio,
what I am hoping to do is this, and this might change a little bit as things progress because, as you know, I have my theory of garden relativity, and that's every one thing relates to every other thing. And so when I put in the next component, that might change how things go moving forward. But at this point in time, what I hope to do is right here and right there on both sides of the garage window, which, yes, is filthy, I hope to plant these little Miss Figgies. These are Southern Living plants. Heretofore, I have had them in pots, and I think they will get much larger and be much more productive in the ground. So what I'm going to do is plant them on either side in the ground, and then I'm going to try to espalier them on the wall. And I'm going to see how that works. Now, these, my concern about this is a little bit that they may die back. Now, they don't die because they're cold hardy and they will come back. But once I get the structure in place, I really don't want it to die. So I'm going to do whatever I can to protect the root ball. I think it will be helpful just having them up against the brick wall, and hopefully the residual heat and the ambient temperature will be a little bit higher here and will protect them and prevent them from dying all the way back. But I'll put them in the ground. I will mulch them very, very heavily, and then I'll start training them in some kind of espalier fashion on both sides. If it doesn't work, then I will dig them up, I will relocate them, put them in pots or whatever. But no guts, no glory. I think it's a gardening risk worth taking because I think it will be spectacular. And look here, I already have, I know, that means it's ripe. So look, I already have, these aren't quite ripe, but I already have some. I think I spied Sergio.
Oh, wow, look at those.
Yeah, I think I saw Sergio over here spying some of them. I told him I would get him one of these. I need to get him. Leah, remind me that I need to get Sergio a fig, a little Miss Figgy. So I think they'll be beautiful, and especially when they fruit, I think they will fruit that much more productively and hopefully that much more abundantly. More importantly, I think it will just be glorious and be beautiful. Now I'm standing in the shade right now, but before too long, this will be in the sun, and then it gets in the shade again. So I'm hoping that the growing conditions will be perfect. Now, something else that I plan on doing that I hope will also provide a little bit of protection, at least from the wind and such, is that, Stuart, if you can follow me, excuse me, over here, I think I showed you this raised bed planter, and I definitely will give you the link. I love the way these look. I did buy them online, and I'm going to have 3 of them. There's going to be 1, 2.
Let me show them this, and then I'll show them where you're.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's
I've got my little peppers in here. You'll notice that these are on stilts. And by the way, Kayla and I are going to be coming back in and putting a couple more reinforcing brackets at the bottom because there will be some pretty substantial weight in here once we fill this up with soil. So I'm going to have one long one here. These are about like 50 inches, 52 inches. I can't remember exactly the dimensions, but I'll have one here, and one here. Then right here, I am going to have, and this is, Stuart, where we want to put a still, I'm going to have probably a multi-trunk yopon, and I may have another one in between, dividing up the space. So I'll have a little bit of shade. They'll kind of look like olive trees, and I'll have a little bit of vertical interest. What's funny, Stuart?
You usually do your tree pose when you're
Oh, okay.
I'm a yopon.
I am a yopon. I am a multi-trunk
I
yopon.
laughed when it didn't happen. That's what's
I
funny.
may have looked like just a gardener from Oklahoma, but oh no. So then over here, Kayla is going to build for me 2 raised beds that will be shorter and larger, and they will be closer to the ground. These figs will be planted behind them, and I just think that their presence, and by the way, they'll be constructed, we will show you the process, they'll be constructed to match exactly those, only they'll be custom made. So all of these around the space will be harmonious and similar. But I think their mere presence here and here will provide a little bit of protection for these in the winter. Now, typically, I wouldn't be concerned about this at all, except for recently our winters have had these just cold blasts, you know, these fall off the chart temps that historically we have not really had, or certainly we don't have them every year like we've been having them recently. So I think that will help. And then there'll be some plantings around the rain barrel, which we will put a link. In fact, we'll put a link below to all of the products that I'm talking about in this video. And I'll have some some plantings around here to kind of soften it. And then I'm going to reserve these two areas over here. Over here, which will be, I'm going to have a huge table along here. And this will kind of be my outdoor kitchen area. I do not have an outlet, an electrical outlet on this wall, but I think I will add one. And then I might have to have a small mini fridge out here so that the guys can get their own cold drinks, so that I can get my own cold drink. And I think it'll be kind of stylish. I don't need all the other stuff. Hubs likes to use just a regular charcoal grill. So I don't need all of the other bells and whistles. I already have a kitchen that I don't use as much as I should. I don't need another outdoor kitchen that I don't use really at all, but I do want some of the creature comforts of what outdoor kitchens provide. And for me, that is anything that is cold. So we will definitely probably, perchance, perhaps, one can dream, have a little outdoor refrigerator here. And Hub said, well, I want one, but I want it to look kind of retro. And I noticed that online, Leah, they're so cute. Did you see? I think I sent you the link. There's one that is just so cute and really well priced. So I think I'm going to get a little retro fridge for out here to kind of, you know, I don't know, just a little nod to the vintage of the house. And then right now, this might seem like a little tripping hazard because there's this lip, but all of this, when we get in the soil amendments and the mulch, all this will be on grade. And then there will be stepping stones that lead from here over to here. And then, Stuart, let's just, well, I tell you what, let's take a break here and I'll show you the stepping stones. Now, I showed you earlier the process of taking out kind of the temporary smaller pieces of flagstone and replacing them with these really large pavers, which makes moving back and forth a lot easier. We didn't do this initially because we didn't want to keep it stored here, and we just weren't ready to do it yet. But we will be adding in the areas that look ugly right now, where you can just see dirt and kind of tawdry grass. We will be putting in some of my signature mulch, 50% gravel and 50% Happy Grow. And then over here, we did, and I believe I showed this to you earlier in one of the clips I took myself, that we have a little throw rug with just some of the remnants. We've got a little throw rug underneath the bench. And I will soften it with a juga and things along the edge. Now, This is more of a focal point and to break up this large expanse of wall than it is for practicality. I might periodically sit here in the shade, particularly when the viburnum is in bloom, but right now it's more just a focal point. There's Hubs. A focal point for Hubs to appreciate as he walks up and down the sidewalk. And the rest of this then will be finished. It will be weeded. I will put another punctuating evergreen right here. And again, as I mentioned earlier, all of this metal surround and edging will pretty much be softened and be camouflaged by the ajuga. And then we'll just have easy passage from here all the way to the back. So for those of you that were concerned that it was a tripping hazard or it just wasn't substantial, indeed that has been addressed, and we have larger pavers in here right now. And then we'll just come in this way, come over this way with pavers to where we kind of started, this southeast side of the patio. There'll be some plantings here. There's some really yummy shrubs, evergreens from Southern Living Plants. I want to try some pancake arborvitaes and some other things that I'll try right here. And just step by step, step by step, over time, this will get finished. I'm kind of, you can tell I'm starting to get hot, Stuart. I'm losing my train of thought. We will eat this elephant one bite at a time, and slowly but surely, it will be an absolutely wonderful, heavenly place to entertain, to dine, and simply to enjoy the beauty that surrounds us. You guys have a great Sunday. Thanks for hanging out with me. And next time we get together, maybe it'll be a little bit cooler and we can be drinking on the patio.
Well, good morning. It is just before complete sunup here at the cottage. I'm out very early this morning because I'm giving a talk to Cleveland County Master Gardeners in Norman this morning. And I've got to be there around 9, so I'm out here shooting this for you early, or at least the backyard. And let's see what progress has been made. So they've completed more of the brick facing on the steps. And let me see if I can kind of work my way down these steps and show you what they look like from the opposite direction, because it truly is magnificent, if I do say so myself. Now, once all of the brickwork is done, and I anticipate that'll be in another couple of days, they will seal the steps and they'll be pretty much finished. And then the surrounding area will be able to finish laying my mulch and gravel blend. And then the table over here, the potting table, will move, and I'll be able to finally, I think, position the various plants in their ultimate destination. I think this coming week I'll get the raised beds filled with a really good mix. And one of you recommended that I might want to consider putting larger casters on my raised beds to help them with be a little bit more mobile and easier to roll around once they are filled with soil, because obviously they'll be quite heavy, though I won't fill them up to the brim with soil. I'll definitely put some kind of lightweight filler in there. probably garden debris, at least a quarter full. And then I'll put in my mix with some really good fertilizer. And then I've got Phoebe, darling Phoebe, while I'm doing this, she's starting some seeds for me of some fall vegetables that then I can just kind of pluck into place once it gets cooler. I do love the way the great room looks from outside looking in. And I think it'll be even more beautiful when all of this is complete. Can you imagine just where the steps end rather abruptly? A gorgeous Japanese maple there, tall enough and thinned out enough so that it just arches over the window. And that's what I can see in my head. And then ultimately, may not happen till next year, but an awning over the back door. And then those gorgeous steps staged with topiary running up and down their flanks. And something vertical in a pot just right to the right of the door. These are things that I've showed you before, but I think now at least I can visualize them to a greater extent. I think I need to clean my glass table. What do you think? And I'll be happy just to get a more accurate scale for what the garden will look like and where my negative spaces will be once things like those big batches of Happy Grow landscaper mix are removed. The firewood is back in its place. And I have my plant stands zhuzhed out and happy and healthy again. I'll start feeding them pretty soon so that by the time the back is finished, those will be in bloom to celebrate its completion. Over here, I've begun to assemble my plants for the mounds that will be the villages, the rounded mounded villages that will be in varying locations surrounding the brick rug. I envision probably 3 mounds, and some things that I've pretty much decided on are these gorgeous blue star junipers, and I will give you a link to them. But they are tough and they've got that beautiful blue-green that I think will be very effective out here. And then I probably can't resist having some boxwood mounds. These were all inspired by the pictures that I showed you in Sunday's video. If you haven't seen it, you might go back and watch it. And by the way, this reminds me that this morning we have resumed the newsletter. So if you are not signed up, go to www.lindavotter.com and definitely subscribe, because there's additional content that I don't share here or on Instagram. But also, if you've missed any of the links, if you want some behind the scenes pictures, and it's just a little bit more intimate. So also in those green mounded plants, I am hoping in the little villages that one of the residents will be the sweet olives that I've got in pots back here. And I'm going to see if I can get them to overwinter by really protecting them, nestling them in the center of the village, and also mulching them. So here is, in the foreground over here, you see 2 olive trees. Let me work my way over here. You see this olive tree right here in the smaller pot in the foreground. I have not yet cut it back, and it needs trimming even if I weren't trying to transform it into a mound form. And then over here is one that I have already pruned back. I could probably prune on it a little bit harder. And it will really thicken up and put out all sorts of new foliage that will have more than enough time to temper before the cold weather hits. And then I might have some just fluffy perennial components. This is a form of Artemisia down here. And in all likelihood, this space right here will be where one of the villages is. And the villages will extend out from the rug or in from the rug, depending on what ultimately surrounds them, i.e. the raised beds or other kind of outdoor decor furnishings. Let's take a moment to appreciate that beautiful, beautiful brickwork. Now over here, I've got a fall planting. This is one that I've showed you before that I've pinched on, I've taken cuttings from, and it's really bushing out and getting much more full with color, great color intensity, and I can just already see some gourds, some pumpkins being nestled in there in this shallow pot. And then over here, some of those cuttings that you saw me take next week, I finally potted up. And you can tell that they've just recently been planted because they're complaining a little bit, they're drooping a little bit, but they'll take hold. And in here, I've put not only coleus clippings, but also some basil cuttings that I took. This wayward tutor with a climbing tomato on it needs to be straightened, but there are tomatoes on it. So I'll wait for them to ripen, and then I think I will really do some pruning and trimming on this tomato, give it a good feed, and I think it will then respond with more productivity than it's had during these very, very hot months, because here's our weather forecast. It's supposed to be in the hundreds, not today, but tomorrow and the next 3 days, and then a protracted period of 90s. So let's take a break here, and then I'll show you some other things. Well, Hubs is getting very, very impatient for that center table to be relocated so he can put in a metal fire pit here, and we can have a small fire out here this fall. And again, I'm still the ultimate configuration of the furnishing of the plant stands. I'm not really sure. I do like this kind of tall element over here in the corner. This is a table I've had forever. I believe it was from Pottery Barn a million years ago. I'm not sure. And it has been pressed into service for many occasions. I remember a fall dinner party where it was just filled with pumpkins and lights and candles, and also at Christmas time where it was filled with poinsettia and wrapped packages. It's just a really good all-around piece of furniture. I can unscrew the top layer and just use the bottom if I want to use it just as a table. The glass has gotten scratched and obviously is filthy right now, but nevertheless, once it's cleaned up and it is staged, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. Then over here, I have yet to get the rain barrel hooked up. You can see I still haven't found the ultimate destination for my hanging sparkler. You can see right there from my dear friend Jan. Need to put it someplace where it can capture the light. But then in front of this gas meter, I will plant something fairly large and fairly soft, and so that it's not too prickly for when they need to read the meter. I'm not exactly sure what that's going to be. What I'd really like to plant there is a huge boxwood ball, because this is in the exact same location that I had a boxwood ball at my other house. And there were two. There was a huge one and a smaller one next to it. And it was one of the my favorite things at my house. I just loved the way it looked. Now, whether or not I have enough room in here, I'm not sure. But I'm still playing. And also it will cover up where there's been some, you can see where they did some pointing on the brick on the garage. Now the garage isn't, I don't think, as large as some of you maybe from how it looks on camera. I'm not really sure. Some of your recommendations have been great, but they're just not practical for the amount of surface area there is. And a lot of you have asked if I'm still satisfied with my decision not to have a greenhouse, and very much so. Now I'm thinking on these Blue Point junipers that I've showed you before, I'm wondering if I want to, like this one, if I want to limb up and remove some of these lower branches so it really does look kind of like a Christmas tree standing in the forest. I'm not sure on that, but I show you these all the time because I'm just so proud of them, because they were just little babies in my other garden. And I planted another one that is more rounded, has more of a rounded form like this one. I've planted it in the front bed, and it might be transplanted back here to be a contributor to the, let's call it not evergreen village, but evergray mounded villages that I hope to have surrounding the patio. I'm also looking at some pancake arborvitae from Southern Living. Oh my goodness, they're so beautiful. I just love them. And in the past, I've only been able to grow them in pots. Look at how pretty the light looks coming through the trees. It's just a gorgeous morning. And I will try to give you, I'll probably put it in the community tab in a newsletter, what color this is for the lattice work and the fence. I'm not exactly sure. It's a blue-gray. And increasingly, I'm thinking on this other side that has been very neglected. And this is where the craftsmen, Javier and Sergio, are working now because they have to cut the brick. And I'm thinking what I might do over here is a mirrored version of this platform, this large throw rug over here. And I might do a mirrored form of that on the other side, and that might be where the grill lives. It'll be covered and cleaned up. Where the grill lives, maybe where my composter lives, I haven't decided yet. And this area will really be beautified because we will build a latticework surround for the air conditioner and to hide those utility boxes. And there'll be some evergreens planted around it. And then there definitely will be things planted along the edge that will soften this whole area, which looks like a holy mess right now. Obviously, that little mound of dirt will be removed. This will all be leveled out. Those nandinas will be repositioned. All of the trashy stuff that's here, covered in clay dust right now. This will all be cleaned up. And once it's cleaned up and it's leveled, then I will make my final decision on exactly what I want to do with this space, because it's difficult for me right now to fully envision the scope of it, the size of it, because these things have been mounded here since we moved in. I do like having a couple of vertical components. These are those gorgeous Encore topiaries. And by the way, it's topiary month, you guys, so make sure on Instagram to post a picture and tag me and I'll repost it. Then I have to find a place for Annabelle. But the light is pretty this morning, and I'm so anxious to get this finished, as are you, because you're probably sick of me talking about it. So this is it for the backyard. The front yard walkabout will probably need to wait until a little bit later. I need to get inside and get dressed. But as always, give me your thoughts. Remember people suffering in Hawaii, and we've got links below on how you can donate. Our hearts go out to all of you who are suffering right now. And here's my commercial. If you haven't subscribed, if you would, please do so. Give us a thumbs up. More importantly, share this wonderful community in this little world we've created with others who might enjoy it. And I will be back in the front yard later today.
So I told Javier and Sergio that I need to put on Amazon where they get their hats, or from wherever they get their hats, something similar, because Javier has his very distinctive kind of out of Africa look, and then Sergio has more his, what do you call that? Kind of just a flat straw hat look, more maybe Santa Fe-ish or something. So we need to have the hat collection. Javier's just going, oh my gosh. Okay, so the master is at work, and we saw earlier where Sergio was taking some of the pavers that I had as just kind of, well, pavers for inside in the interior of the upper terrace for me to walk on as I'm working. And we're stealing some of those to put them back here as a platform for a couple of plant terraces that will be right here. Now you'll notice that he is recessing them very exactly, like he always does. He'll pound them into place. These are pavers that you get at, these are 12 by 12s. I got these at Lowe's, I think, and they were about $2.38 a piece, something like that. So you could do this project pretty inexpensively. But you'll see how he's recessing them. So that'll prevent a tripping hazard. But the other thing is we have excavated out about 3 inches of dirt from around the patio and from this bed area. And then we're going to come back in with my blend of gravel and that fine pine Happy Grow landscape mix that I like. And this will for the most part be hidden underneath that mulch, but it will provide a nice, stable, ever-present platform for these plant terraces or for container plantings or whatever I want to put in here. Now, why am I doing that? Well, number one, for obvious reasons, I want them to be stable. Number two, because I want to keep Javier busy. And number three, because this area is so congested. The dirt is so hard packed underneath the canopy of these cedars that it would be very difficult to get much of anything established here. Maybe around the outer edges I can, but right in here there's going to be way too much root competition, and I don't want to disturb the roots that are there of these very old trees. So first, do no harm. So that's what we're doing here, and I think I have mentioned many times that I just love the concept of a theater. You guys have seen some of them before at my other house. Klaus Dalby is the master of that, and I like having theaters for my geraniums or pelargoniums, for my angel wing begonias, and increasingly for different kinds of vegetables. So I'm going to have a lot of fun playing with these plant theaters. There's one here, obviously. And then there is a larger theater here. And by the way, I've got some versions of these smaller corner pieces, plant stands that are on QVC. I'll be showing those to you and putting a link to them. This one came from Gardener's Supply. I don't even know if it's available. We will look and see, but this has been, I've had this forever. And you can see here that I can take off these corner pieces, and I could put the 2 corner pieces together and make a half round or even a full round by putting 4 of them together. And these are the ones that resemble what I have for sale on QVC. And I personally have ordered more of those for my own use. And those will be coming in shortly, and I'll make sure to show them to you and provide a link. In fact, you could just go to Linda Votter Home on QVC right now and you could probably find them. So this will be another theater here, and we will do the same underneath that. So you can see over here that Javier has already put it in place. Thank you, Javier. Perfect timing. He's already put it in place. And then these will pretty much just go away because they'll be covered up by mulch, but also because there will be plants that just kind of cascade and flow over the side. And they're all together there then to kind of keep each other company. It makes it easier watering when they're not spread all around. But most importantly to me, it's all about how things look, and there'll be much more dramatic impact when the whole family is together in one family portrait.